Thank you for joining our webinar today on event grids for publishers. My name is Nikki, and I'm a senior support and education specialist at Edelweiss. And I'm joined today by Joe Foster, who is our director of education and client support. Joe's going to be monitoring the chat during the demonstration. So if you have any questions along the way, please ask them there. And he'll either answer them live or let me know at the end that I can demonstrate them. One other quick note that this webinar is being recorded. So if you need to duck out early, or if you know a colleague who may find this useful, you'll be able to access the recording on our summer sessions page, which is the same place you registered for this. So I'm going to be taking you through today loading an event grid if you're in the publicity or marketing department at your publishing house. And I'll also show you as a publicity or a sales rep how you can enable access to your event grids to your accounts. So the first thing is basically, what are event grids and why do them? Event grids are a way for publishers to inform stores, libraries, and other organizations of their upcoming plans for author tours and events. And then those folks can pitch their event to you, the publisher, and your publicity and marketing departments can decide if that's a good place to send your authors based on your goals for that title. So let's get started. Don't need to say that. So we are on our Edelweiss homepage here. Can everyone see that? I don't know how I would know because I can't see any of you, but I'm guessing it's okay. So the first thing you're going to want to check before you start loading an event grid is to make sure that you have the necessary privileges for doing so. So to check that, you're just going to want to click on your profile icon. It's either going to be your profile image or your initials. Go to your profile and account, and under basic information next to privileges here, what we're looking for is this publicity, publicity event grid admin. That's the privilege you're looking for. So if it says that there, you are good to go. If you don't see that, you'll want to get in touch with your user admin who can enable that for you, or they can let us know and we can turn that on. So for this particular step, only those who are inputting the actual author tour information need this privilege. Sales reps and other folks do not need this. You're probably going to want to keep this the ability to load event grids limited to just the folks creating grids for your house. So the next thing to do to create is first you're going to want to create a collection with the titles that you want included for your tour. So I've already created one here, our publisher winter 23 adult tour. So that's all set. You don't need to really do anything else with the collection other than have it created with the titles you want. That's that step. The next thing we're going to do is go to our administration page. So again, click on your profile icon and click on the administration link. And now depending on your specific privileges, this left side bar may look different for you, but what it should have is this event grids tab. And that's another way to check too. If you don't see this event grids tab, you don't have those privileges yet. Reach out to your system administrator who can add them for you. So under event grids, you're going to want to click administer. And if this is your first time doing a grid at all, you probably won't see anything here. That's okay. If you're a new publicity or marketing rep, your house may have posted other tours in the past, and you can see some of those listed here. So this one that we already have is a fall 22 tour. We can see the titles that are included in there. And the collection that it was connected to, when it was created, how many folks it was shared with, how many requests have been submitted for it so far, and then your due date down here. So your due date is going to be whenever you would like to close the close access to the grid and stop receiving requests. So the next thing you'll see kind of above that are these buttons for active and archived grids, and these can help you keep your screen and everything organized, but still hang on to the past grids you've created. So if your publisher has had events in the past and you click on this archive button, it'll bring up all of these old event grids. You know, these are from 2012, just so they're kind of out of your way. And if for whatever reason you want to reopen submissions, you can unarchive that. But we'll go back to our active tab here. And we're going to upload a new grid. So you're going to want to click on new campaign here, under actions. You're going to want to fill in the information for the name of the tour. Generally, you may want to make it the same name as the collection you just created, but it can be anything. The description, if you have one, keep this set to outlets, and you're going to want to put in a due date. So the due date is important, again, because that's when the grid closes and you'll stop receiving suggestions. If you leave this blank, your grid will stay open forever, and it can cause a lot of confusion down the line. So just whenever you would like that to close. And then you are going to want to connect it to the collection you just made. You can also connect it to one of your publisher catalogs, or any collection that's in there. But for this case, we're going to want to connect it to our Winter 23 collection, and then click Save. And we see that's shown up here. Quick note, if you're looking under your active list here and you have a lot of grids and you create a new campaign, that's going to show up at the bottom of your list. So if it looks like your screen hasn't updated, you may just need to scroll down to find it. We've saved that. The next step is to upload your tour information, which will include who exactly is touring, where you're planning on sending them, things like that. And you're going to upload that with an Excel file. So the format of this file does need to be consistent. If you click upload here and you want to get the format, you can just click here to export current event grid in Excel, and that'll come up, that'll download the grid for you. Whoops, there we go. Okay, and because we just attached that to an actual collection, we have the ISBNs of the titles in there. So those are already in there. And then the other important part are these headers that need to be exactly as they appear, and like that. So I'm just going to actually copy and paste in one that I did earlier really quick, and I'll go through a little bit about these columns as well. The only thing that you need to have is the ISBN, but it's probably helpful for you to have more information in there, because the more information you can give to outlets, the the better they can judge whether that author would be a good fit for their store and pitch their event more accurately to you. So your second column here is your author column. That probably seems self-explanatory. The author name will, of course, be listed in your in the title listing, but depending on who's actually touring, you may want to include information here. So, if a book has multiple authors, you may want to include who exactly is going to be on the tour. If it's a book with an illustrator and an author, You can, or like a translator, you can clarify there. You can include the publicist here if you want. Again, you don't have to, but most likely, if you do want to reach out to a store or a library for an event, the publicist is the person who will be getting in touch with them. So if you want to put their name there, that might be a good idea. Hometown, either, you know, where the author is currently based or where they're from. You know, a lot of times if an author has a connection to a particular place, stores in that location will want to suggest an event. Your tour locations is where you're planning on sending the author. You can be as broad or as specific here as you want. But, you know, for if you include like New York City, you'll probably get, you know, requests from surrounding towns as well, because they'll be in the area. Any tour comments you can put there. So, for example, if it's a virtual event but hosted at a store, you can say that AV equipment's required. If it's a virtual event, you can clarify that you'll send book plates, things like that. And then our last two columns are author pronouns and author name pronunciation. And this is very helpful for the folks who will actually be hosting your authors. I actually used to be an event manager at a bookstore, and a lot of the times, you know, they'll create their own introductions for your author. And so this category can just really help them craft that so they don't have to ask your author the day of. That just makes that process easier. So once we have our info, and again, if you don't have all the info at first, that's okay. The only thing you need to fill in is the ISBN, and you can leave the other things blank until you have more information. But you're just going to want to save that. And if we go back to our admin screen here, whoops, where we go back to choose file, you'll want to choose the file we just saved. And make sure you save it too, as an XLS file. It needs to be in that format, not a CSV or an XLSX. And click save. You should see success come up, and then you can X out of this. And to check what we just saw, we're going to go back to our Edelweiss homepage and click on our Event Grids tab. And so here we'll see like more detail of the event grids that we've created. On the left here, we have not shared with accounts. So that is going to include the one we just made. There we go. That we haven't shared. It hasn't gone live yet. Our shared folder here is going to be grids that are currently active. They haven't hit their due date yet, but they have been shared. So you could be receiving requests live from there. And then all your archived ones here, if you want to look at those for whatever reason. But if we go into our not shared one that we just made here, we will see on the right hand side here that usually has the order information and things like that. We see our tour information that we just uploaded. So, the authors who are touring, the locations, any comments, things like that are here. A quick note that the only way to see this tour information is by going through this Event Grids tab. If you go to the original collection we made, you'll still just see the regular order field and your markup bar there. And that's the same for your accounts too. They need to go through the Event Grid tab and not just to the collection. So if we are going through, we haven't shared things yet, or even if you have shared things, but you need to make some edits, you can, if you just need to make some quick edits on a title, you can click this tools icon next to the tour information and update whatever information you need. there, save it, and that will update there. And that will be all set. If you need to edit anything as a whole, like say you created your event grid, but you just had the ISBNs filled in, you want to put everything else in, you can edit all that in that Excel file and re-upload it. And that'll come through here. And that won't be a problem. So, okay, so let's say this is done. We're ready for it to go live. We're going to want to go back to our event grids administration page and click this share icon, 3 dots connected with a line. We can see our old one here that it has been shared with outlets, and the one we just created, it hasn't been. So we're going to want to click that. It'll ask us if we're sure. Press OK. And then the page will refresh. So you just have to go back. And now we can see it's been shared with all of the outlets who should have access to it. If you do need to edit it anytime, even if it's already live, you can do that by clicking the tools icon, and you can update, your name or description or anything here. For your due date, if, you're not getting as many requests as you like, you want to push the due date out, you can do that as well. And that will update. Yeah, and so then hopefully over the next, couple weeks, however long your grid is live, outlets are sending in requests for your authors. You can check the status of these at any time, or, when the due date has passed, retrieve all of those by going, oh yeah, so here we just shared that grid, sorry. So now our new grid is in the shared section here as well. But if you want to kind of check the status, you'll go into your grid and you can click this cloud with an arrow icon. And then that will download a document called publicity that looks like this. And it'll give you, the title information, author information, so you can kind of filter the whole list by that. You can see where the account is located, so like where the store or library is located, what date they submitted, the name of the store or library. This demonstration one is just called Indie Bookstore. Who submitted it, and their contact information, their email and phone number will be here for you to be able to get in touch with them directly if you would like to schedule an event with them. Their rep contacts, so this may most likely be their rep, but it could also be anyone else in your publishing organization who has this person listed as a contact. And then the specifics of their request. So the outlet profile is going to be kind of the more general information about their store. And then this is the request, specifically why they're asking for this author, why they think it would be a good fit. Their expected attendance in the next column and expected sales. I don't know why that one's at the bottom of it, but it's down there. And location, this may differ from where their account is located. It may not. Oops, sorry. Okay, that's not helpful. But if an outlet, say, is going to host an author at an offsite location, like a theater or something like that, they would put that there. And then internal comments here, that would be if their rep or anyone else, from your publishing house puts in a specific comment. So maybe their rep feels like they didn't include all the information here. They may include a comment for you to look at here. That's like, talking their store up more as a good place to send your author. And so, that this is how you would peruse your requests, and when you've kind of finalized that, how you would get in contact with those folks as well with their email or phone number. So the next thing I want to show you is how to enable someone to have access for event grids. Pretty much anyone in your publishing house can enable this access. So how you manage this just kind of depends on how you want to run your publicity department. A lot of publishers rely on their reps to maintain the access, since their reps know their stores and may directly know who the event coordinator is. But if you are a smaller publisher, if you don't have sales reps, or if you use independent sales reps, or your books are sold through a larger distributor, so your rep is not necessarily the same person or isn't connected to your publicity department at all, really, you may want to maintain access through a few key people at your publishing house. So, and how you do that, again, is up to you. But how you would enable that access is by adding a user to your contact list. So you'll go to your people page and your individuals list right here. To add a new contact, you'll just click add a new contact at the top. Enter their email address, and then their information will come up for you to add. If you're adding one person, once they're in here, you can click on this pencil icon and the little switch here next to event grids. You can turn that off or on to enable that access. On would be the dark blue filled in. And then they'll have access for your grid. And you only have to do that once, and they'll be able to see your future grids as well from there. So you don't need to enable that for folks every time a new grid goes live. So you may have noticed that I only have 4 contacts here, but the grid that we just made was shared with more outlets than that. I think it was like 15 outlets. And that is because other members of my publishing house that I'm in have granted access to their accounts from their pages as well. So the grid is shared with all of them, not just the people in my contacts who have granted access to. If you want to take an inventory sort of who your grids are being shared with, you can do that. You can go to your event grids main page here and click export all users with grid access. And that will give you a file like this that includes username information, their email address, their account they're associated with, like where that's located, and then the rep contact. So the rep contact is going to be who they are in a contact list for. So if you're wondering why, let's say this person has access, you can see that they're in the contact list for Adam. So there's a pretty good chance that Adam's the person who enabled access for them. So you may want to get in touch with them and be like, this person shouldn't have access, please take it away. But yeah, you can kind of manage things like that. There's a lot of turnover at book organizations. So when event contacts come and go, you may want your reps to update these from time to time of who has access to your grids. And again, that depends on how wide a net you want to cast. A lot of publishers just want like one person at a store to have access so that the requests are only coming through that one person. Other folks are fine with, letting everyone who works at a store have access. It really just depends. So that is that. And looking at all the access, all the users with access. If you do have event grid permissions and you want to more easily kind of see who on your contact list has access rather than clicking this pencil icon for each person. If you have a lot more than 4 people, you can go back to your administration page under Event Grids Administer and click Manage Account Access. And that will bring up the people. So there were 4 people in my contact list, but there's only 3 people here. And that's because the 4th person on my contact list is another publisher contact. So your other publisher contacts are not going to show up here. It's only going to be the folks outside of your store organization. So you will see a yes if they have access, a no if they don't have access. If they don't have access and you want them to have access, you can change that. And it should save and update. If you see an NA here, rather than a yes or no option, this indicates that the email address for that contact doesn't have an Edelweiss account. So it's not connected to an Edelweiss account. If you share an event grid with them, they're not going to get it through this email address, most likely. If this is a real person, you may want to get in touch with them to ask them what email address they use to log in with Edelweiss, and that's the one that you should put in your contacts and grant access to. And then a quick note for any independent sales reps. Since the publishing organization is probably not going to be the organization umbrella that you're a part of on Edelweiss, your best bet is to send an email to those publishers of yours who post event grids, including the email address and name and store/account name of those at your accounts who should have that access. And then either their publicity departments or another person at that publisher will be able to enable access for them. So the next thing I want to show you is how you would, as a rep or really as anyone at, if you want to see what kinds of requests are coming through, how you would see those requests. So if we go back to our open grid, we'll go to the fall one since we just made the 2023 one. So there definitely aren't any requests for that. But I did make a request for this one, so. Sorry, hold please. So, okay. The requests from them would normally be showing here. Not great right now that they're not. I think it's most likely because this is a fake demonstration account. And so like the accounts aren't real for them. But if we go back to our catalog for this, we should see some events that were requested here. So if you are a rep and you're going through catalogs, you can see events that were requested for these various titles with this little drop down here. And then if you're fielding the actual requests back where we were here, you'll just want to click on this download icon again to get those in an Excel file. Oh, when your grid is closed, either when it's past the due date or if you are deciding to close it, back on your event admin page. Let's see. So if this grid closed yesterday, you would see instead of the due date here, you'll see that the grid is closed. If you've exported the requests, you want to kind of clean up this page a little bit, you can click archive and that will move that grid into this archive, back into this archive folder down here at the bottom. If you click that by accident, no worries, click unarchive and it'll go back to your active folder, but that's a good way to kind of keep this active page pretty clean. I'd recommend, you know, once you've exported your list of requests and don't need to actually edit or look at the grid anymore, to archive it so that when you're here, you're just seeing the grids that are live and active. And that is, I think, pretty much it of posting a grid. You know, once you get those requests, the ball is very much in your court to then reach out to those organizations if you would like to schedule an event with them, and, you know, can work out things from there. So I'm going to check the chat here to see if there's any questions. Yeah, so just to clarify too, with the grids, only the specific users at a store or organization that you've granted access to can see the grids. Other folks at the same store, if you haven't given them access, will not be able to see the grids. And so that's kind of a twofold thing. A lot of publishers don't want access to their grids to be they don't want everyone seeing their plans for their author tours, and stores in a lot of cases don't want, you know, booksellers to be able to submit requests, because then it can get very confusing, especially when you have that Excel sheet at the end. If you have multiple requests from the same store, that's probably not going to be great for you or them. Next question, do you have to establish contacts at specific bookstores? So that, I mean, that may be your kind of best bet going forward. But again, if you're if you're a smaller publisher, or if you have another company that distributes your titles, so you may not have kind of sales reps interacting with those stores, that may be more difficult. You can kind of add and grant access for, if you have their email address, to whomever you like. And, you know, they'd be able to see the grid and peruse it once it's live. But it may also be a good idea to reach out to those stores directly, either to ask who their events coordinator is, or to get, you know, a more personal relationship with them. But that's up to you, I think. Yeah, thanks, Joe, answering that. Oh yeah, another kind of tip is for outlets. You know, you may have some who have event grid access and some who don't. I would suggest adding those with event grid access to a group. Once you share your event grid, it goes to everyone who has access. So it's you will be able to kind of share a grid with one group and not another, but it can help you keep track of who has access, and who has access to those grids, so you can keep that organized and check on it every so often. So the way to do that would be to select the folks who do have grid access, click other actions, add contacts to groups, and you can create a group. So now down here on your on the left in your refine bar, you have the groups that you've made. You can click event access to see who you've put in that group, so who has access. And if there's someone that no longer should be on this list anymore, you can edit them, you can take away their access, and you can also take them off the group so that you don't have to do that again. And now we just have the one event grid person in there. So back to the chat. So the group thing here is really just for your organization. You're not going to be able to just pick one of these groups to grant access to. So once an event grid gets shared, like the one we did before was shared to 15 outlets or organizations, but I only have one person here who I want to have event grid access. That means other people in my organization have granted access to. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to kind of pick individual groups of people to share it with. It's kind of an all or nothing thing with event grids. So are there any other questions that I can answer? If not, we can wrap it up. But I do want to thank everyone. Thanks, Joe, for monitoring the chat, and thank you for your wonderful questions and for attending this afternoon. Again, this was recorded, so if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share it with a colleague, the link should be up probably by tomorrow on the summer sessions page where you registered for this event. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us anytime at support@abovethetreeline.com. We do have some help docs on event grids here. If you click that question mark that was in the top right of your, sorry, can't type and talk at the same time, your page, you can search for help docs here. We have a video instruction of loading an event grid if you just want to see that part again, and some written instructions as well. So thank you all so much again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and rest of your week.